On to National 2 North now, where this week we were joined by the Rugby Papers reporter, Ben Cropper. Now, Ben currently reports on Leeds Tykes for the Rugby Paper, and he also writes for the club website as well. And Ben got in touch with us ahead of what is set to be a big weekend in National 2 North, with second place Leeds Tykes travelling to league leaders Lim in a top of the table battle. So plenty to get stuck into with Ben. So Ben wanted to share his thoughts ahead of this mammoth fixture in National 2 North, and we also look ahead to the rest of the action. Yeah, great to have you on this week, Ben. And it feels like this weekend there's a big one with second place Tykes travelling to league leaders Lim in round 9 for a top of the table clash. But before we get into that, Ben, obviously you would have focused on the team last year, that epic title race with Rotherham Titans. So what has the mood been like during the first, 8 weeks of the season for Leeds Tykes? What has their focus been?
I think very much so. The focus is more about just focusing on our own game and letting the outside noise take care of itself. I mean, I think a lot of outsiders and casual observers would obviously be expecting us to have a bit of a hangover from last season, but largely from what I've seen and heard about the players, the attitude is very much about putting last season behind us, and albeit in a cliched way, just taking one game at a time. And I certainly think, as a reporter and part of the club's voluntary media team, that that's working for Pete Seabold and his men, because they're rather efficiently going about their business. I think we went into the season as bookies favourites, and everyone expected us to do really well this year. But I think there's so much competition in the league and so many good sides now that are improving all the time, that the attitude within the Tykes camp is very much one of collective cohesion and togetherness, and we'll let the league table take care of itself, and what will be at the end of the season, as it were.
Yeah, it's a great point you make there, Ben, about sort of, some people may have expected Leeds to just march off into the sunset and pick up from where they left off last year and be a dominant force. But I guess the last 2 games that Leeds have been involved in, which I know you've watched closely, Ben, probably echoes the point you make there. Obviously, the last 2 wins they picked up was Sheffield away, which was a really hard-fought victory. And even at home against Preston Grasshoppers in round 8, with Leeds winning 35-29, they had to work extremely hard to get over the line. So do you think that is keeping the minds focused within the Leeds Tykes camp, Ben?
Well, I'll take both of those games in turn, if I may, and just say that the squad that played against Preston Grasshoppers was a heavily rotated squad, and I got the impression from speaking to the coaches before and after the game that some of that was forced due to injury and due to the tough battle, as it were, at Abdale Park, where we scraped through by the narrowest of margins. But everyone knows what a tough place Abdale Park is to go and win. And then moving forward to the Preston Grasshoppers game, I like I said, that was a heavily rotated squad, and I also think, maybe this is naive and maybe this is me wearing my supporters hat a bit too much, that maybe we'll have a few boys or a few irons in the fire waiting in the wings to spring a few surprises on Lim. And but I guess we'll only find out the truth of that when the official team sheet is submitted on Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. You're building up the excitement nicely there, giving us looking back on those last 2 games and also looking ahead to the Lim game on Saturday. As me and Ben have spoken about there, Lim do come into this top of the table clash. They are the league leaders at present, and only Tunbridge Judeans in National 2 East have picked up 40 points from 40 as well. So a 100% record for Lim, and they managed to maintain that. Last time out, they were 18-7 down actually at half-time against Hull in round 8, but they managed to turn things around to claim victory, and it's a big tick in the box for the Cheshire side going into this weekend's game against Leeds Tykes. So just to confirm the current standings in National 2 North, as myself and Ben have touched on, Lim lead the way at the moment with Leeds just a single point behind them, and down at the bottom of the table, Sheffield Tigers claimed a crucial first win of the campaign last time out, beating 12th place Harrogate 34-33, meaning Tynedale slipped to the foot of the standings in round 8. Tyne actually fell to a 45-22 loss against Fyle. But Ben, I know we've talked about Leeds and Lim in a top of the table meeting so far, but it also feels like a big weekend at the bottom of the division with Sheffield Tigers and Tynedale meeting on Saturday. I know Leeds Tykes have already faced Tynedale this season, but it does feel like a huge fixture for both Tynedale and Sheffield Tigers, doesn't it, going into the weekend?
Yeah, that feels equally huge for entirely different reasons. It feels like a classic, to use a football cliche, it's a 6-pointer. So I guess in rugby terms, you could consider it a 10-pointer given the free scoring nature of National 2 North this season. And I'd just like to say that when I saw Tynedale earlier in the season, I thought I didn't expect them to be where they are now, because I thought at times they put some really good stuff together. So it's a real surprise to me, and I think certainly from their perspective, the league table belies the truth of some of their performances.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Ben. I think both Tynedale and Sheffield Tigers' league position might actually not be a true reflection on how both sides have performed this year. I know Tynedale had a good start against Fylde last time out, but just couldn't quite continue that. And Sheffield Tigers did get the first win against Harrogate, but they've very much been in games against Lim and Sheffield and other teams this season so far. So it does feel like a big game at Dormoor on Saturday, which is never, ever an easy place to go. So let's just have a quick look at the rest of the fixtures for round 9 then. And Hull, who we touched on earlier, who tested Lim last time out, they go to Chester looking to begin November on the front foot. Fylde, one of the form teams in the division at the moment, 5 wins in a row now after achieving that victory over Tynedale in round 8. They take on Otley this weekend at Woodlands. Hull Ionians versus Harrogate. Well, Hull Ionians will be hoping to turn their fortunes around a little bit after 4 defeats in their last 5 games, but they have picked up bonus points, but they'll be keen to turn that into victories when they take on Harrogate at Brantington Park. Lim versus Leeds, we've touched on. Preston versus Billingham, as we chatted about with Ben. Preston Grasshoppers didn't lie down against Leeds last time out, and Dan Orwin's troops may have wished for more, but the 6th place side will be looking to continue an encouraging start at home to Billingham. Sheffield versus Wharfdale is 3rd versus 5th at Aberdale Park. That should be a really good contest, especially with Sheffield bouncing back in round 8 with a 45-10 victory away at Billingham, while Wharfdale come into this game on the back of 2 successive victories. And as myself and Ben have just chatted about, Sheffield Tigers versus Tynedale, the battle of the bottom 2 takes place this weekend at Dormoor.